HIV has forever been an issue that has been rendered a nuisance in the well-being of global health and communities. Although the virus is common among societies alike, HIV is concentrated in the country Eswatini, where it has caused citizens to struggle whether it be in daily life or in survival itself. Addressing this epidemic would provide the provisions towards minimizing the effects of the potentially life-threatening virus, HIV. The country Eswatini is located within southern Africa, which in itself is the third poorest and most disease-prone continent in the entirety of the globe. Without the proper resources and medical aid, the people of Eswatini have become more susceptible to viruses such as HIV by weakening their immune systems and such. Although all ages and sexes are affected by HIV regardless, there have been statistics stating that women are most vulnerable against the virus in Eswatini. Albeit so, there are ways to hinder the spread of HIV using the methods of primary prevention, such as using condoms or getting tested regularly to treat the virus at its early stages. In Eswatini alone, approximately 1 in 7 people who have gotten HIV don't even know they have it, making the virus even more dangerous, as it can spread and those who have the virus can live without even knowing they have it. At this time, a cure for HIV has not been found, but there are methods, as said, to address and treat the virus. From sexual contact to infections through blood, and even mother-to-child contact in birth, breastfeeding, and pregnancy, the population of Eswatini is at risk no matter the circumstances. HIV attacks the immune system and can possibly lead to AIDS. Through AIDS, there is a risk of tuberculosis which affects the health of the body as a whole. HIV affects the nervous system, leading to depression and neurological disorders that can negatively damage a people's mental health. Not only that, since HIV can be considered a sexually transmitted disease, the virus can harm your sexual health and harbor difficulties during sexual intercourse. When discussing the effects and results of HIV in Eswatini, you must also consider the health determinants within the people in the area. For one, women who are at a higher risk to HIV than other genders are often less valued in society and gender alike. There is also a lot of gender-based violence in accordance with these views on women, and in turn, women are expected to stay home and do the chores with men taking majority control. Also, women are usually forced into sexual relations due to social obligations and expectations set by society and their families. Due to this type of sacred obligation, the chances of transmitting HIV to these women are high and are common as sexual obligations are in Eswatini. To elaborate, along with gender expectations, income inequality also factors into why HIV is such an important and dangerous epidemic in need of addressing. Similarly, women are not valued in society, and the pay inequality in Eswatini is a prime example of this disproportion. As a result, women can't afford independence, and in turn they may be forced to stay with an abusive or toxic partner for financial reasons. Africa is the third poorest continent in the world, and it can be shown through Eswatini's lack of appropriate resources. Just by viewing the pictures on the right, it is obvious that the country is not economically stable, and so many cannot afford simple resources in order to practice and sustain safe sex. Without these resources, HIV, which is already common in Eswatini, rises once again, given how infectious and dangerous it can be when left untreated. Among the countries that are most greatly affected by HIV, South Africa resides, which is where Eswatini, our chosen area, is located. As you can see just from the chart, HIV is a global issue, and alone within the sub-Saharan region, only 4 areas are not greatly affected by the virus, with the rest having high rates of HIV. Those without proper treatment for the HIV virus must endure life in constant danger, having that the disease is potentially life-threatening. Whether it is due to a lack of resources such as condoms or lack of proper funds, adults and children alike are forced to work under such circumstances to provide a roof on houses and food on the tables. These high rates of HIV usually reside in rural areas but are not limited to these places alone. Compared to urban HIV rates, those in rural areas of, say, Eswatini experience more stigmas related to HIV and its counterpart, AIDS. Without the proper education to teach the population about sexually related diseases such as HIV, unsafe sexual activity in Eswatini is very common. To add on, the country also lacks proper resources and utilities to identify and diagnose the disease before it spreads and the reign begins once again. Although so, Eswatini and its global neighbors have taken steps to reduce and treat the epidemic HIV. To say the least, large precautions have taken place while avoiding obstructing the cultural and societal responsibilities of the Eswatini people. All things considered, it is safe to say that Eswatini is in dire need of help to address their HIV issue as well as others, and lowering the risk of HIV overall can be managed through simple things such as sexual education, provisions of condoms for safe sex, or addressing the unequal pay that sets women's rights apart from men's. By doing so, doors are not only open to bring awareness towards the inequality that is men and women, the risk of HIV will be greatly reduced and carefully kept track of. In this situation, you are left with 2 options, one being addressing the epidemic HIV in Eswatini to prevent further spread of the virus and advocating for women's rights when it comes to sexual activity that results in HIV, or ignoring their needs and letting the disease spread from person to person and later on, country to country.